Hi folks, my name is Brad. I use the pronouns he, him, and his. As a part of the session today on healthy and unhealthy relationships, we're going to do an activity called in brackets, healthy relationships. So unhealthy relationships. And my co-facilitator, Kelsey, will facilitate the second half of this activity. For this activity, I just want to mention, I want us to try to think about relationships broadly. So please consider the variety of relationships that you're a part of when you're participating. I also want to mention before we get started that I'll invite you to participate, but please feel free to participate as much as you're comfortable with, and feel free also to pass it at any point. I'd also like to make a content kind of trigger warning here before we get started. Because I think it is really challenging at times and uncomfortable to think about aspects of a relationship that might be unhealthy. So again, please feel free to take breaks. Both Kelsey and I will be sticking around after the session for a little bit. And also during the session, if you feel like you'd like to connect with Kelsey or I, you can send us a message on the chat. Okay, so for this activity, we're going to be using Zoom's annotated feature. So let me pull that up. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so for this activity, I'm going to invite each of you to add text responses directly to the screen. And for this activity, I'd like us all to think of an answer to this prompt here that I'm going to write. So what does an unhealthy relationship look like, sound like, and feel like? I'm not a great multitasker, so I stopped typing there. Okay, you guys are ahead of me. Awesome. Okay, so manipulation, absolutely. The lack of growth, for sure. See, Alicia just typed in denial of feelings. Sounds like silence. Feels like isolation. Absolutely. It's unsafe, powerlessness, constant questioning of behavior and power imbalances, isolating. Excellent. So great responses there. I really appreciated everybody participating. I wonder if we can have one or two people just maybe elaborate on one of the responses or any of the responses that are on the screen right now.
Brad, I can just get started.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Abby.
So I think that in any relationship, it's important to communicate how you are feeling regularly. And I feel like if one partner feels like they're sacrificing too much, and that isn't very healthy for any relationship. So I think constant communication is necessary, and no partner should feel like they're sacrificing or compromising on who they believe they should be. So again, sometimes in relationships, we tend to conform to gender roles, and I don't think that is also very healthy if that is not discussed beforehand. You don't assume that people do certain things because they subscribe to a particular gender. So I think that's also a communication you need to have, and you don't assume things. So
sure, yeah, that's a great response. I think communication broadly is definitely an essential component, right? But I also hear that you're saying being authentic in your communication and being authentic to your own identities, right? And trusting that the other partner is going to respect your authenticity, right? I wonder if anyone else wants to participate and maybe if they want to comment on anything on the screen or if they want to comment on something that they posted.
I can say something.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Awesome, thank you. So I wrote walking on eggshells, or just sort of like being on eggshells. I think feeling like if you say the wrong thing, or if you do the wrong thing, if you wear the wrong thing, or sort of whatever, that the person's gonna flip out or hurt you or sort of get mad at you is, for me, sort of a big sign that it's an unhealthy relationship, and like that's sort of not cool. You should be able to be sort of your, again, as you said, your authentic self without sort of worrying that the other person's going to get mad at you for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that can feel like you're walking on eggshells when you're not able to be that person, right? Great. I see a hand up. Michael?
So I didn't write this, but I'd like to make a comment on the person who wrote, sounds like silence, feels like isolation.
Sure. Yeah.
So when I saw this, I immediately thought about how in all relationships of all kinds, they should be, the other person and you should be partners. So if it is a friendship, you two are partners in whatever you're doing in life. If you are in band and you're the stand partner and you're sharing the same music, you're partners and you work together to, facilitate that. If it's your boss, they're your partner. When I was in teachers college and I had my associate teacher, there's a power dynamic, but they're still my partner and they're trying to help me through scenarios and work through life. And so when the power dynamic is off or when the relationship is unhealthy, you feel isolated. I understand that. You feel isolated because that partnership is no longer there. You feel like it is just you in that dynamic that you should be working in with a partner.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And I really appreciate that you're bringing up, this collaborative element to what a healthy relationship might look like, but also that you're mentioning the power dynamics, right? And that oftentimes when we're in a relationship that has these power dynamics, it might make us feel like we can't co-collaborate with those people, right?
Exactly.
Great. And Maisha, I saw your hand up.
I think it's not on the slide here, but I often use this analogy to help you understand how unhealthy relationship may feel like, because sometimes, emotional development is ongoing, but it seems like there is a bucket in your chest and it just keeps on filling it up, and you feel full because your own thoughts, wishes, ideas are not being heard. Your feelings are not, you're not able to communicate your feelings effectively because of power or whatever is happening in the environment. So they're just, you feel full because you're not being able to express who you are, and what you want in the relationship is not being addressed. So I call it like a fullness in our chest.
That's a great description. And I'm just looking at the chart here. The denial of feelings, even in situations maybe where we feel like we are able to express our feelings, but they're not being met in a way that makes us feel like we're being heard, and that these people accept us for who we might be. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. So thanks a lot for all those awesome responses. We're going to move to a more positive aspect here, and we're going to do the same activity, but we're going to ask the question, what does a healthy relationship look like, sound like, and feel like? So I'm going to clear everything here. I'm going to type that into the middle, and feel free as I'm typing to add your responses, because I'm a slow typer. Being met where you're at. Absolutely. Feels like home. That's great. Communication, it's fun, compassion, empowering. Conditional support, security, warmth. Excellent. Trustful. Being real rather than right. Great. Okay. Does anyone else have responses they'd like to add here? Great. There's a lot of awesome responses here. Okay. So I wonder if anybody wants to or would feel comfortable maybe elaborating on what they may have put on the blank sheet here, or just anything they'd like to add or elaborate on based on some of the responses here.
I can.
Yeah, okay, great. Emily?
I put looks like, and then I put a little heart just as a basic, like it just feels good, loving, caring. And then it feels like good for the soul. And my closest best friend, every time we get together and talk, it feels like kind of that bucket Maisha described, like getting to empty that out. And it just feels lighter and more comfortable. And I think sometimes a good relationship can sound like either like very loud and noisy and laughter and fun, and it can also sound like very quiet and comfortable and calm.
Sure. Yeah, I really appreciate that contrast, right? Because it doesn't have to necessarily look the same all the time. But if elements that are being talked about here on the paper are a part of that, then definitely, yeah, it might be a healthy relationship. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add on this sheet? Yeah, Abby, go ahead.
Thanks, Brad. I'd like to comment on the feels like home thing. I think I'm thinking about my relationship with my sister. I really like the fact that when I'm around her, I don't feel like I have to really prove anything to anybody, and I can be goofy or I can say something silly, and I know that's going to be okay, and it's not going to. And I know she will also critically point things out that are not right, and I really value her feedback. So I think when you are in that sort of relationship, you understand that when a person calls you out on something, it's for your good and not that they're being judgmental. So yeah, feels like home.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great point there. And I think, and it sounds like the relationship that you have with your sister, say, is a relationship where you really trust that other person. You feel safe being yourself, right? Even if at times it might be critical, or she's saying something about you that maybe you're uncomfortable with, you trust that person, right? And you're okay in that environment. Does anyone else want to share on this topic? Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to turn it over to my co-facilitator here, Kelsey. Thanks a lot for your responses there. And Kelsey, I'll hand it over to you there.
Thanks, Brad. And I will keep the ball rolling here. So next, I just wanted to take a minute to think about what jealousy is and what it might mean to you as a group. And if anybody does feel comfortable sharing, then please do. You can share via chat or, you know, raise your hand or just call it out as it is. But we are thinking about jealousy in the context of relationships, whether healthy, unhealthy. What role does jealousy play in relationships? And is jealousy healthy, unhealthy, or both? Maisha?
I mean, I can probably write an essay about this, depending who I am. But I think first to acknowledge that jealousy is a very normative emotion. And it's a valid emotion for that person. Like, I think that for people to understand, like, oh, I'm a bad person, or I am, you know, screwed up, or I'm messed up because I'm experiencing jealousy. First of all, we just need to accept the fact and be compassionate towards ourselves, or even towards our partners, that jealousy is a very normative feeling. And I think sometimes jealousy could be rooted in our own internal challenges, but also there could be external context as to why it makes sense why the jealousy would be manifesting in the person. So I think that what I pay attention to is how we regulate that jealousy and monitor the actions that come out of the jealousy, because jealousy is normative, but actions that come out of the jealousy could be unhealthy. So it's not the feeling, but the action.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Oh, yep. Kelsey?
Yeah, wow, Maisha, that was perfect. Mic drop, yes. I think for me, when I think of jealousy, I was pretty jealous of my friends in high school, but I never sort of understood it as jealousy until a little later on, because I thought jealousy was like the green-eyed monster and like something horrible, horrible. And like, I'm not a horrible person and I love my friends. And so how could that be me? But I didn't like who they were hanging out with. And I thought, why are they hanging out with them? Why aren't they hanging out with me? And I like had these really negative feelings. And so I think, as Misha said, like recognizing that jealousy is a normal experience, it's a normal emotion, but that we can have feelings and we can have thoughts, but we don't have to act on them. We don't have to tell my friend, oh, you're not allowed to hang out with them. You can only hang out with me. I don't like them. They're not good for you. Give me your phone. Let me check your messages. Like that's an action we're going into that power and control in that unhealthy relationship that I can, and it's a skill I think we all need to work on, that like I can have a thought, I can have a feeling, and I can sit with it. And it may make me feel really uncomfortable, but I can sit with it and not sort of act on it. So
sorry. Thanks for sharing that. I love that the conversation has kind of taken account into like the flip side of things when it comes to jealousy, and acknowledging that jealousy is a normative emotion that all human beings experience, and we don't have to act on it, and we can express it in a healthy way and communicate our feelings that we might be experiencing as jealousy without it becoming an unhealthy thing. Sorry, I saw someone, Callie.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of like say what you said at the end there. I think that as we've very clearly established, jealousy is a normal human emotion that we have. And I think that a way that like you can use, I don't want to say use your jealousy productively, but like, I think it's very like communication is like the key to any type of relationship. And I think that one way that you can kind of like work through those feelings is by like having a conversation with whoever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be even the person that you maybe felt jealous towards or that was involved with that situation and that made you feel jealous, but even just like talking through those feelings and like kind of like letting them, and then like if you want to do it with like maybe a romantic partner, for example, not like making the point of the conversation like, I don't want you talking to this person or I don't want you doing this, but it's rather like just like kind of like letting them know how you feel and see how you can work from there with the other person.
Absolutely. I love where this conversation has went. Okay, Annalise?
I think that I like jealousy sometimes because I think it's a good little like flag or marker on when to check in with myself and to be like, oh, I feel jealous because of maybe this thing in my past that I'm letting bleed into aspects of this present relationship, or maybe I have a need that's not being met that I haven't been able to articulate yet, and I see maybe that happening in a different friendship or partnership, and I want that for myself. So checking in on what in myself is triggering that emotion, and then not saying, oh, I feel jealous, so I don't want you to do this, or I feel jealous, so I need you to do this. I feel jealous, I realize it's because I may be missing out on this, and can we have more of that?
What a nice demonstration of communicating jealous feelings. Michael?
To go off of what Annalise was saying, a personal experience I had was being in teachers college. It's 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of teachers college, and then it takes some time to get onto the Ontario College Teachers and get a job. So it's a very long process to be a teacher in Ontario. Compared to my siblings, I have 3 siblings, and they all have working jobs, long-term stuff, making good money. And I, at one point, was like, man, I'm really jealous of my siblings and my peers around me who had gone into other fields, and really start to feel those emotions. So I think a part of something that we need to be thinking about is also like being kind to yourself and realizing that, like, for me, for example, being a teacher, I'm on the right path. I'm doing exactly what I need to be a teacher. I'm getting there. I'm not doing anything kind of veering off in some random ways or what have you. I'm in the right path. It's not the same path that my siblings have to go through, right? So I have to be kind to myself and realize that like that jealousy doesn't need to be there. It's just different paths, different lifestyles, different, career moves, I guess, if you want to call it that. So in the end, sometimes jealousy is like other people impacting it, but sometimes it's more an internal thing. Like, it's just, you got to be nice to yourself. And that'll hopefully get away if that works.
Yeah, I feel like what I'm hearing is that jealousy can actually be enlightening in a way, and maybe even help improve communication in a relationship, help improve where the relationship goes from there. So yeah, I'm loving it. Also, I can totally relate, grad school for life. It's a different path, I get it. Mel, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the flip side, which is like jealousy of other people who are in relationships, because that's usually what I am. So I think, Michael, when you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because that's how I usually solve jealousy with myself. I call my mother and I talk about someone else's relationship, like romantic relationship, and then she says, do you want that relationship? And I said, no, I just want like something like that, right? And she's the one who reminds me, like, you were on this path and you love where you are and you know what you want and you're waiting for that person who can give you that, you know, and I always feel better after that to like, so it's this compassion of this combination of self-compassion, Michael, and knowing that like you are whole and like and on the path that you want to be, and you're there for a reason. So I just love that. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, I love this. I'm loving the positive side of jealousy that these conversations have taken us. Anyone else have anything to share before? Yeah, go for it, Mel.
I'm sorry. And then also, I think, just to tie it back to what we're talking about, like gender and sexual minorities, I think sometimes, and actually for me, it has come because I am a romantic minority. And I think that, you know, it's so often like I want to go off that path. I'm going to keep using that, Michael, because I love it, right? And sacrifice something that I really need because it would just be easier, right, to get involved in that kind of relationship. But when you truly know yourself, it can be hard to wait, right? If you're a gender or sexual or romantic minority, for that, you know, that relationship that you know is right for you. So I guess that's just like advice for another romantic minority out there.
Oh, it's great advice. Thank you for offering that advice and speaking to this. Anyone else? The reason why we want to discuss jealousy in the context of healthy and unhealthy relationships is, of course, acknowledging that jealousy is normative. It's a feeling that we all have as humans, but it can lead to controlling or manipulating behaviors. And these unhealthy actions may escalate, and they have been shown to lead to further relationship violence. And so I just want to remind everyone here that you can't always tell by looking at a relationship on the outside whether it is healthy or unhealthy. Relationships have their ups and downs. There may be unhealthy moments or choices, but on the flip side, just like jealousy, there may also be healthy ones. It's important to pay attention to your own feelings and responses, like we've discussed. And that can help you to not only recognize your own boundaries and values, but also to gauge the healthiness or unhealthiness of your relationships, whether they be romantic or not. And I just want to make note that on page 15 of the manual of the workbooks that you all have, you can find some helpful tips for breaking up with a person, which you can use as a resource if you find yourself wanting to leave an unhealthy relationship, or if you do want to cut ties like Egbert and break up with someone for any reason. And it's important to always consider your safety when breaking up with someone or being put in that situation. Because, for example, if you feel unsafe, you should never meet a person alone to break up with them, and always have that kind of safety plan in place, if so. So thank you all so much for sharing every side of jealousy that there could possibly be. And I really appreciate your feedback and your responses. This was great. Thanks so much. And like Brad said, we'll be here if you have any questions or want to use the chat option.